Eastern Standard Time. It's LinkedIn Live, Hour of Empower. Today's word of the day is healthy. I am so honored and privileged again to have Sarah Dawkins with us. You know Sarah, she's just a ball of wonderful energy and helpfulness. And hopefully, through this show, we can give you some valuable takeaways that you can apply to get some real value for your time and thought. So, with that said, chat's open. We depend on chat to direct us, make us as relevant as we can and as helpful as we can. So, with that, while we're waiting for chat to own, we've got one chat. Nice to see you. It's working. That's always a good sign. So, with that said, I'll turn it over to Sarah, and Sarah can bring us a little bit up to date and initial thoughts on healthy.
Thank you, Don. It's a pleasure to be back with you. 2 weeks just goes by so quickly, doesn't it?
I can't believe it, honestly.
I know. Like, where has the time gone? You blink and you miss it. Hi, Kelly. So most people who join you know me, and health is a great word because I'm a holistic health coach and I help people to get healthy. But healthy means different things to different people. So what are we actually looking at when we're saying healthy? Well, a lot of people just think of it as, well, I haven't got a disease or I haven't got a diagnosis, therefore I must be healthy. But are you really? For me, with my clients, healthy means mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. All those four pillars of health have to be covered and dealt with to become truly healthy. And we can be healthy, but our lifestyle feeds into it. So our lifestyle can make us unhealthy. So we could be poodling along all nice and healthy, and then we have some junk food or just don't move too much, just sit in front of the TV. I'll go out and drink lots of alcohol in excess, and then we can make ourselves feel awful, or we can catch the flu or bugs. So our lifestyle plays a huge part in understanding what health means to us and how we're affected by it. And for me personally, I know that gluten and dairy don't like me but they're known to be inflammatories. But when I eat gluten and dairy, it makes me have pain in my joints and it upsets my stomach. So it makes me unhealthy. So I avoid those to better my own health. So it's about understanding how our bodies work and looking at the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of it. And that includes connection, but connection with others, because we're not born to live in isolation. We need that connection with others. And there's a whole scale of how much we need. Some people need less, some people need more. But we do need that connection to other people. But we also need a connection, whether we call it to ourselves, to God, the divine, the angels, the universe, our higher wisdom. It doesn't matter what name we give it, but we need that connection to that little inner voice inside us as well. Working with relationships around health. So all of that is a real short, sharp overview of health. And I'm just looking at all these messages coming in, but obviously I can't read them while I'm talking. So I just wondered if anybody had questions, or if it's more of a good morning, how are you doing, what's going on?
Well, I'll definitely go through these because we do appreciate everybody's participation, interaction, because it makes it just so much better for everyone. So we've got Kelly. Everybody knows Kelly. This is as much Kelly's show as anybody's show. Been with us, an anchor, and just tremendous person and a quality influence on everybody. So thank you, Kelly. Am Ruth is here, new name. Haven't seen you from India. Great. Uh, Ashif from Canada is here. Has been here almost every day. Another wonderful gentleman who I got to know and talk to. Dennis is always here, rhyming as he goes. Time does fly when we do what we love, helping others. Petra's here. So nice to see you, Petra. Good morning, my favorite people in the world. Jeff's here. Happy Sunday. Great to see you. Petra says, you're so correct. I can only eat organic foods. Christine's been here lately. So happy to always see Christine. Good morning, Don and Sarah. Health is physical, good blood work, etc., and emotional, mental, social. I used to exercise all the time. Too much time in front of my laptop lately with work and school. I used to avoid gluten and dairy too. I have to go back to that regimen. Makes a difference.
Yes.
Christine says, oh, yes, spiritual health also.
Yeah.
And John's here. Good morning. Great to see you. Petra comes back with, I have this sign saying, if you see me talking to myself, I'm sorry, but I'm having a meeting with God. And you know, I think what Sarah brings out so clearly is it's about balance, you know, and knowing when you're in balance and letting your body tell you how you feel instead of telling your body how it should feel, you know, or how you interpret what your body's telling you. You know, pain is a messenger, you know, discomfort does tell you whatever you did may have created this situation,
Yeah.
right? And it's hard to be true to yourself and not walk the walk as well as talk the talk. You know what you should do, you know what the benefit is, and you choose a different route. And then it's just a matter of responsibility and accountability. There's no shame in not living up to whatever it is, but learning from it and making those adjustments to say, maybe I took on too much, right? Maybe instead of getting rid of all gluten, I'll get rid of half of it now, you know, and stage it because everything should be comfortable on a journey. If you're stressing about what you're already stressing about, now you've just doubled the stress and now you've got less place and less resources to allocate. So I think reservation makes so much sense, right? Where you reserve your space, you reserve your time, you give yourself a quality review, and you rearrange, you know, you redeploy. And that's the fun is change could make the difference as long as you keep doing it. So what's your thoughts? We got such a lovely audience, so many people.
Yes. Yes. Some new names. Like I've not heard of some of the names as well. But yes, absolutely. Do what you can when you can. And it's baby steps. You know, there's so much that we can do to improve our health. But if you look at it as that big picture, it's a massive big picture and so overwhelming. So choose one thing and do work baby steps towards it. Nobody's saying you've got to change all this and do all that and stop that and start that. It's choose something that works for you that you think you can do fairly easily and take baby steps to do it. Don't even jump like I cut gluten out, and I could more or less cut it out all in one go. But I didn't cut dairy out at the same time. That was at a different time, just one thing at a time and baby steps. And the other thing is take care of your body as well, self-care. You know, you've got to take some time out to look after yourself. So as somebody mentioned earlier about exercise and being in front of a laptop, recognize that we all need to work. Well, in the main, most of us need to work. But schedule or recognize or take time out or set an alarm to go outside, to get up from the chair, away from the computer. And if you can go outside, if not, just walk around a little bit in the house. But movement is so important. And what is being found now that because everybody's fixated on 10,000 steps with these step counters, that's been pushed and pushed and pushed for activity, that you know you've got to do 10,000 steps to be healthy. What's being recognized more now is it's about reducing the amount of time that you are inactive. So it's about finding ways to get yourself moving and active, whether that's vacuuming and dancing at the same time, or taking your clothes up after they've been washed upstairs one at a time to put them away in a wardrobe. But finding ways to be more active than be inactive, if that makes sense, because it's inactivity that makes us ill.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to awareness, right?
Yeah.
And once you're aware, and sometimes it's a good idea to quit while you're ahead, right? And quit on your own before something forces you to that isn't something you would have chosen at the time. So it's timeliness, awareness, and some things you can get away with when you're younger, you can't get away with as you get older. Your recovery periods are different. You heal differently. And I think once you understand that, and if you're kind to your body, you allocate for that. Sleep is the same way.
Yeah.
You have to make time for sleep, and usually sleep makes time for everything but it, right? I got to do some more. I'll go to sleep later. I'll wake up earlier, and is that really where you want to get the reserve, as opposed to being more selective with your investments, right? Every time you buy something to eat, it's already purchased. It doesn't matter whether you eat it or not. The money's already spent. It's just like with a buffet. It doesn't matter what you eat. It's still the same price. So that's what I think people should do, is take more time, be more active. And once you're aware that, hey, I've been sitting, and that's why sometimes a watch or something will tell you time to stand up.
Yeah.
And you forget, and then knowing it, hey, I'll move around for a minute or two in ways I wouldn't have. So what made you more focused on healthy in your life?
In 2005, I was working in a hospital in America. We'd gone out to America forever, and we stayed out there just shy of 2 years. But I was working, and I've been raised in the medical model that, if you're sick, you go to a doctor, you get a prescription and a drug, and it makes you healthy. And that was my belief. But somebody just questioned something I'd said in a conversation, which made me start looking outside the medical model at what I could do for myself. Because I thought it was relatively healthy. I ate reasonably well at the time, not wonderful, but reasonably well. And I had a reasonable amount of exercise. But I had eczema and I had acid reflux. And I thought, well, most people have got something, and so that's why I considered myself healthy. So when a lady mentioned to me and questioned something that I was doing, I started to research. And then I started looking at, well, actually, from what I'm reading, our body can heal itself without the pharmaceuticals. So I started looking at what I could do in my own health. And that's when I cut out the gluten and then the dairy. And I massive leaps forward in my health. The acid reflux and the eczema totally healed up, and some of the joint pains I'd had started going as well. And I didn't have the brain fog in the afternoon because I hadn't eaten the gluten in a sandwich. So I really started seeing the benefits of it so quickly. And that's when I was on a train then, it was just like, right, I've done this. What else can I do next? Because I love the way I'm feeling now. I'm less tired. The brain fog's gone. I have no joint pains. The eczema and the acid reflux has gone. And I really did feel much better in myself. And it's once you start healing, you look back and you think, I had this low grade something going on, but because you just live with it all the time, you just accept that's how it is. And I thought I was healthy, but with acid reflux and eczema. So as I say, once I started on that roller coaster, one thing led to another. I started doing more and more and more to look after myself. And then it became at odds with working as a nurse, with following the medical model and giving out the pharmaceuticals, versus what can I do for myself and how can I help other people to help themselves? Because I can't help them. I can only point and open their mind around what they're doing in their lives for themselves. And we all heal ourselves. Nobody can heal you for you, but people can look at objectively at your lifestyle and your thoughts and your behaviors and maybe like somebody did to me, just question something or just point you in a different direction. But we need to be open-minded to take that information on, because, you know, previous to that, I think I was quite closed-minded. And if somebody had said 10 years before that, I'd have said, well, that's how it is. That's, you know, that's what life's like. And then, but because of the conversation we had around it, I started to think, well, is there another way? What can I do? So it is about opening your mind to see what you can do for yourself, because you are the answer to your health problems. You are the key to your healing. And again, it comes back to the physical, so the food, the drinks, the exercise, the sleep, the water, the mental. Are you looking after your mental health? Are you going out? Are you engaging in activities that works your mind? The emotional, have you healed your past? Because if not, it will come back and bite you. And the spiritual, that connection to that little voice, whatever you want to call it, inside of you. So we've all got those keys, but it's a case of sometimes we have to go searching to find what's missing and where that key is to unlock that little cupboard, that hole, whatever you want to call it, so that we can help ourselves on our own healing journey.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. And, it covers so much area. But, you're right. It is about you and how much time and thought do you want to apply to you. The other really beneficial opportunity is there's so much knowledge that's so much more accessible today than 20 years ago. So with Google, with YouTube, and the thing is you get a collection of views, of insights, and what you always come away with is at least being conversational, at least understanding terms and situations, and allow yourself to digest it and decide what parts of it makes sense for.
Yeah.
And review other things, because you have to really look deep to understand, how did I ever think this way?
Yes.
Right? What was my influences growing up? And are they valuable today? And are they valuable to me versus the person who shared them with me? Right? What's good for you may not be good for the next person, depending
Yes.
on the next person. And sometimes, again, you take things for granted because they've always been that way.
Exactly.
There's no testing. When you start to test something and decide, and that's the beauty of it. And simple things, and it may not sound simple, like quitting something, you can see in a day or two if there's a difference. And you can always go back, right? You can
Yes.
eat sugar tomorrow if you gave it up today to see what it feels like. And then that's what it should all be. And I think, Sarah's so right, because so many people are comfortably uncomfortable and they live with it. They adjust to it,
Yes.
right? It's like, okay, well, I know I'm going to have an issue, but it's not that bad. Or I can take something and kind of cover it up.
Yeah.
But who's running from what and who? And it's much better to say, I know this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then you don't have guilt or regret. And you took responsibility, but maybe tomorrow I might be able to move towards that. Because
Yes.
I think ultimately it's sustainability you're looking for.
It is. Yeah. Because it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. So
Mm-hmm.
the changes that you're making to help you on your own health and healing journey need to become lifelong habits. So as you start changing those habits, you can incorporate them as part of your lifestyle. Because and I was guilty of it in the past when I was a much larger lady, and I would say, well, I'm not going to eat that today. I'm not going to eat that today. But then the next day I would start eating it again, and think, how can I lose weight in the next 3 or 5 days? And we're kind of conditioned, because there's so many quick fixes available, but they're not really quick fixes, are they? They're all, everything's temporary. And those quick fixes will actually harm us in the longer run, because they're not usually healthy fixes. So if you can aim for lifestyle changes and healthy habits and incorporate them into your lifestyle, rather than just think, well, I'll just do this today and that's it, or I'll do this for 1 week and then that's it. No, make it a lifestyle thing, and take that responsibility. And it's okay sometimes, to go, I fancy eating this today, or I fancy this glass of wine today, or I don't want to do that. It's absolutely fine. It's not a hard and fast, like you say, once you've cut it out, that's it, finished. But know, like myself, what your consequences are for doing, eating, drinking, whatever. For me, it's pain, and I don't like it. So I tend not to eat the wheat and the gluten and the dairy. Very often, maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year, I might have something, but very, very infrequently, because I know it causes me pain and I don't like that.
Yeah, and I think that's so important is while you're making these changes, know what they're going to do for you until they do them. When they do them, then it's positive reinforcement where you're now avoiding pain, not really dealing with pleasure and pain, right? Because that's the trade-off. Well, if I have that chocolate brownie, boy, it's going to taste good. I'm going to get a sugar rush, but then I'm going to end up with this for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Right. And now I've got the choice between the best and the worst when I could just avoid it.
Yeah.
And just pass through it instead of getting stuck in it. And I think that's so important, and being happy and comfortable in your choices.
Yes.
Right. I know this is the right thing, and I know it's helping me. So it makes me feel like, why would I not go along with what it is? But before we go too far, the comments are just unbelievable today. Anjan says, bad days don't last like the universe. Soon good days follow. You got it. And that's why programs like this, people like us connecting with each other, can give each other the motivation. One more day, just give it one more day before you throw it in the towel, and learn a little bit. Be happy with it. Look at something else besides what it is that's really you're too focused on. Wonderful. Thank you. Petra comes back with exactly what my surgeon said. I've done my best fixing it, but please listen to your body.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it is. Paul says, grateful to be here. Come to my version of church now. I've noticed that this isn't tough for most people to take their own advice. Yeah, it is. But, everything is tough. That's worth doing. Overcoming a challenge, the benefit is getting beyond where you're at that's not working. And once you know it's not working, making a change is not difficult. And I think that's the key. When you know whatever you have is never going to work long term, and it's always going to create this situation, a lot of times you bite the bullet. You just say, hey, let's just get it done. Let me get over it. And plus the thing is, who owns who? Does the chocolate bar really own you?
Yes.
Does the ice cream sundae mean so much that everything that means more to you, like how you look, how you feel, your clothes, is it all worth? And what I realized, because I lost 40 pounds in 21 weeks.
Wow.
I was Weight Watchers. I just dialed in everything I was going to eat that day. And I just went meal to meal. And every week I'd average 2 pounds. And my wife lost 40 pounds in 22 weeks because we did it together. And it just showed you that you don't have to do as much and still enjoy it. And to your point, one of the policies or rules was, if you got an urge for something, take care of it. But just eat enough of it so you're not, because if you don't, the next day you're going to eat 10 times as much.
Yeah.
And once you can satisfy, say, hey, I had enough for now. Maybe in a week I'll have some more chocolate, but it's okay, because whatever got you here was full of that stuff.
Yes.
Overnight to say I ate a piece of chocolate is not, it wasn't the end of the world before, and it won't be the end of the world now. But
No. And that's really good, Don, because quite often we can have an urge or a need, a want or desire, and we give into it because we've got that urge, need, want, desire. And the thing is to really be mindful while you're doing whatever it is, drinking, eating, whatever, really savor the flavor and be really conscious with whatever that is that you were craving, and really enjoy it, and don't beat yourself up for it. And your body will thank you, because you have no idea how much stress it causes when you eat something, then you go, oh, I wasn't allowed that, and then you feel guilty, and then there's some shame, and all of that causes internal inflammation. Well, just enjoy what you're eating, let go of the guilt and shame, and say, okay, I've had that because I had this need, and I've enjoyed it, and tomorrow I won't have it again. I'm going to have whatever, salad and meat, vegetables and fruit, and whatever you want. But really, the message is, don't feel guilty, don't blame yourself, don't shame yourself. Enjoy it, but then let it go and move forwards.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice. And I also believe that, healthy, and it also has a great deal to do with environments,
Yes.
right? It's not actually what you eat or exercise, but the energy that you're around, like in a workplace. Is it a healthy environment? Is it a healthy place to work? And they're not talking about your physical health. They're talking about your emotional well-being, your mental health, your personal respect for yourself or lack of it when you're compromised, when you have to do things you don't believe in, but it's what's required, But again, that's unhealthy choices to stay in those situations. And just like your regular health, you tend to say, well, I can do it. That's the first mistake. It's like whatever you had a full schedule, and now you have something you don't like, didn't want, won't appreciate while you're doing it, and then you take it on. It's almost like not understanding everything in the rest of your life is not independent of that.
No.
You can't freeze it. You can't put it off to the side and deal with this, because that's time, that's thought, and how you project and how you ripple through everybody else. So it's really going into the marketplace every day and deciding in every part of your life, is this job or career working for me now? Is this relationship working for me? What do I need to make it healthier? And I think it's the same thing. It's actually redirection. I used the ice cream. Now I'm eating, some berries, right? And I found ways to eat berries that now are more delicious than the ice cream was. So I mean, it's those type of things that I can do it. I can do it. I can change this for that. Nothing means that much to me, that as long as I can substitute, and not go without. But then you start playing games and say, do I need 3 eggs, or would 2 be good enough today?
Exactly.
Can I make 1 piece of toast, and if I still want another one, make the second one? Because by the time you have the first one, you might be too lazy to make the second one.
Yes, and quite often, because I do eat really well, I've put weight on recently, and for me, it's been portion sizes. So I'm eating good food, but I'm just eating a lot of it. So I've cut down my portion sizes because I'm eating really well, and walk the dog nearly 2 hours every day. So it's about taking a conscious view at what is going on in your lifestyle. So are you eating foods that are detrimental to health, and is that why you've put weight on? Or are you eating too much? Is that why you've put weight on? Or are you not eating enough, because your body can go into starvation mode and store everything as fat? Or are you not moving enough? There's a whole gambit of reasons why we would put weight on. And like yourself, I think I lost 42 pounds when I was early 20s. And within about, I don't know, I don't have scales now, but within about 7 or 8 pounds, I would say my weight has bounced around over the last 30 years. But not a lot, because I'm mindful and wary of what I eat and how I eat it. So it is about becoming conscious of what you are doing within your lifestyle that impacts your health, not just weight, but health in general.
Yeah, and it's those choices, and it really comes down to what are your needs?
Yeah.
So do you need that? Because when you really look at food, and I looked at it so many different ways, is that there's only so much of your mouth that even knows what you're eating, right? Once you swallow it, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing is for those few inches of taste. And then I looked at it, I said, well, if you look at it, it takes time to buy food. It takes money to buy food. It takes time to prepare food, eat food, and then clean up. So the less you buy, the less of that chain ever takes place. And that's why I think in the past, most people didn't gain weight who had to shop every day or grow every day for it.
Yeah.
But when you open up a refrigerator, it's like everything you could ever want, and everything is what you bought to eat. It's like you're better off with just the basic.
Yeah.
Because again, you're going to be too lazy to run to the store for just one thing.
Yes.
And you'll say, I can live without it. Or even the timing with this intermittent fasting. I see so many people at 7 p.m., you could stop eating and make it till 7 a.m. tomorrow. I mean, you'll get through. But let's go through the comments because
there's a lot.
Oh, for sure. Christine says, okay, need an email. You're going to help each other. That's great, Christine. Christine's always helpful like that. Ashif says, do small, love, do consistently.
Yes.
Little things done right over time compound, and you can enjoy the ride, because if it's long term, you're never at the end of the journey, right? If you lost your weight, the next question is, can you keep it off?
Yeah.
And the lessons you learn over 20 weeks kind of say, hey, I'm not going to get into that situation, so I don't have to do what I just did again.
Yes.
Right? And it's short-term pain at times for long-term gain, or the opposite, depending on which direction you're going. Healthy is relative, Paul says, to each individual. I would say for me, getting out more is a definite shift. I've been trying to implement. The weather has been an interesting challenge. Well, even when we were also, at least we were stuck inside for that whole pandemic. I mean, I took up chair yoga. I found different ways to exercise without having to go to a gym. And like you mentioned, vacuuming, changing the bed, it's work, it's movement. It's not glamorous, but it's also your stuff that you're doing too.
So you get to see the results.
Yeah, and the thing is everybody loves people who do housework, right? So you can almost get anything you want if you take the initiative and start vacuuming. And most stuff is not difficult.
No, it's not.
It's not complicated. You don't take your life in your hands when you plug the vacuum in. Paul says on those darn Apple Watches killed me. They trigger every few seconds to breathe. And sometimes that's so important, because when it comes right down to it, it's your breath that keeps you alive, and during the worst situations, one has to say, just focus on your breathing, right? Calm down, relax, everything is everything, everything has its time. Ashley said, okay, Petra, yes, the molecular cells needed to be rechargeable. I agree with you. Christine says, we eat too much sugary, salty, processed food too. When you get better physically, you get more clarity as well. And that's the thing, Christine,
yes.
When you eat real food, and so many people are malnutrition that are so overweight,
Yeah.
right? Because they're consuming nothing as far as nutrition. Most of it's fake, most of it's sugar, salt, processed, who knows what.
Yeah.
Your body does know the difference. Your skin will show it. I mean, everything. And then you ask yourself, why did I even? And it's
Yeah.
the taste, it's the sugar, the salt, and the fat that hooks everybody. You know, that commercial on potato chips, which was, I bet you can't eat one,
Yeah.
was familiar for so long. So what's your thoughts, Sarah?
And food that contains all that sugar and salt and fat, it's addictive. White processed sugar is addictive, and the more we eat, the more we want. So it's about finding ways outside of that. And you put butter on butter. And for me, I've always had a sweet tooth, but I found bananas. It's fig season at the minute, and they're just in abundance, and it's amazing. Figs and dates. Fresh or dried dates are all high in natural fruit sugars, but they're surrounded in the fiber as well of the fruit. So if I feel the need for something sweet, I'll have a date or a fig, because they act as laxatives as well. So you can't eat more than 3 in one go, and more than maybe 5 or 6 in a day. Otherwise you know about it. So it's self-limited. So it's about finding things that you can enjoy that will still give you what you're wanting, because we might want it but we don't need it. So
Well,
it's about discerning that want and need.
and you can find really sweet things that aren't that high in sugar, or at least not processed,
Yeah.
because fiber does make a difference. And again, we're getting into detail, but re-examine what you do every day. And some people aren't aware, right? You know, I drank too much today, or uh, ate 4 slices of pizza. Sometimes you're emotionally eating and not physically eating. You're going way beyond when you go to that third slice of cake and that second scoop of ice cream. And I think it's just people feeling like I deserve it.
Yes.
And that's the same thing with shopping. Some people feel like they're not taken care of, or no one's recognizing. All of a sudden, they'll go out and buy a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
and maybe in the moment they're really happy, but then they come back to what was it that created that situation. So where the answer doesn't fit the question, you've got a disconnect, and that's where the conflict comes in between yourself. You're going between shame and embarrassment, to all these other things. And a lot of people dig their grave with a spoon every day.
And was it Edward Bernays that realised that it was emotions that sell? I can't remember. And he wrote, I think either he wrote a book or somebody else wrote a book called Propaganda. And it's basically using emotions in advertising to hook people. And like you say, people say, well, I deserve it, so I'm going to treat myself, or I'm feeling low, so I'm going to buy something or eat something. And we've linked food to happy, so birthday parties and celebrations. There's food now to sadness. When we feel sad, we eat something to get that sugar rush, or we're at funerals, there's always food. When we're bored, we'll go to food. And emotions, food is tied around so many emotions, but emotions now are used in marketing. So we're coaxed into buying things through our emotions. Don't get left behind, buy this latest and greatest. Or you're worth it, so buy the cake, eat the cake, or the dress, or whatever. And it's all playing on our emotions. And when our emotions can be manipulated, sorry, we're not in a good state. We're not in a healthy state. So we need to recognize that our emotions are being manipulated and come back and again become conscious of our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions. Why are we doing what we're doing? Is it because somebody's triggered us into eating or buying something, or we don't want to get left behind? We're feeling guilty or shameful. So again, we're eating or we're buying. So it's about coming back into ourselves and listening to that little voice, even finding that little voice within us, and having that conversation. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we feeling what we're feeling? What triggered us to feel that? Where did it come from? And what issues are around that I'm trying to eat or buy or feed. And it is that awareness, as you said, so that once we're aware, we can then take responsibility for it.
Well, you're so right. And that's so articulate because there's money in consumption,
Oh,
not,
totally.
not in lack of it.
Yes.
Minimalism restricts buying of things that aren't important anymore,
Yeah.
right? So a dairy company wants you to eat more ice cream, drink more milk. And what they do is they show you people jumping around outside with their glass of milk, kids enjoying their cookie, more sugar with a glass of milk, because they're selling happiness in the moment,
Absolutely.
instant gratification, but then they don't take responsibility for what comes after it, which is obesity and everything else. And at the same time, it's really about addiction.
It
It
is.
could be a food addiction, it could be alcohol, drugs. I mean, there's a million things. And all addiction means is you want more than you should have
Yeah.
in ways that you're not getting it normally, right? So, in essence, whenever you get it, you solve an immediate issue and then continue to aggravate a long term or sustain a longer term issue. And until you can see a better path or feel a better path, because the other issue, people just resign themselves to it. It's not like everybody's fighting it anymore.
Yeah.
They just accept it, and that whole thing, my metabolism is slow. And instead of saying if I exercise more and ate less, I would still do better
Yeah.
than accepting my situation. Or you get around people who are even worse than you. And you say, well, compared to them, I'm not that big of a drinker. I don't fall down every second. So the point is, it's all relative and conditional.
Yeah.
But you really need to understand what is it that you're living for. And if you're living for something beyond yourself, that will give you motivation to cut something down. Right? If you're a smoker and someone next to you who you're living with has lung issues and you care about them, you'll figure a way to go outside or do something. And that's where intervention comes in. The people who love you the most bring it up to you.
Yeah.
Because they want to take the risk to themselves rather than be a bystander to watch something happen to someone that they could have been able to at least make them aware, right? And then once you're aware, now maybe you can move towards a plan. But more importantly, you're going to fail many times on your way to success. So who do you fail with? Who's there to say, hey, you're 2/3 of the way home? We'll get you there. You're doing great, because it's that positive reinforcement that really someone cares.
Yes.
Someone cared about me when I stopped caring about myself.
Yeah.
And for them, I'm going to do something that I wouldn't have done for myself. And I think that's where leadership is having people do things they couldn't have or wouldn't have done without your support.
Yeah.
And if everybody can support everybody in a sincere, honest way, instead of a nod, blink, blink, all passing in the fog, and that's where just stop where you're at and see where you're at. So many people are racing to go somewhere they forgot where they were just at or where they are.
Yeah.
So again, that's a balance. But let's cover some more of these wonderful people. Wilson's here. I don't think I've seen you in the past, Wilson, but welcome. Great to see you. Ashif says medication is half the medicine. Mindfulness is the other half. It's body, mind, and spirit, right? And why not include them all? It's like a team. Why not bring them all into the game with you? Yes, have to pay attention to every piece of symptomatic signaling. Well, at the same time, my grandmother lived to be 97 and she had everything under the sun. And she buried like 3 doctors. And I asked her, I said, what's your solution? And she said a sense of humor. Right? I never took anything that seriously. I did what people told me, but I didn't worry about it. Why double pay?
Yeah.
You know? What's your thoughts, on all these wonderful comments, Sarah?
I love it. There's so many people, putting their points over, having conversations and connecting with other people, but also supporting the fact that health is what we do for ourselves as a case of love. We don't deny ourselves the gluten and the dairy because we want to punish ourselves. It's an act of self-care. And most of us haven't got the DNA to digest the gluten that's about now, because it's been changed over the decades, over the hundreds of years. And lactose, most of us are lactose intolerant anyway, but we don't realize until we've stopped it. And people say, I didn't have it for so long and then I had it, and wow, I had a really bad reaction, so I think I'll go back to having it all the time. And I'm like, well, how did you feel when you had it all the time? Did you have a bit of brain fog? Did you have a bit of joint pain? Did you feel a bit sluggish? Did you get tired in the afternoon? And then when you've stopped it, you've felt so much better. And when you've started it again, it's just brought in a big reminder as to why you needed to stop it. It's not the fact that you've got the symptoms because you've had it the once. It's the symptoms that you've had all that time that you just forgot. So it's better to do without than to eat it. As I say, for me, it's a personal act of self-care. But again, it's about recognizing, like you mentioned, the chocolate brownie. I do have a bit of a weakness for a chocolate brownie and a salted caramel ice cream. And we went away a couple of weeks ago, and I might have just had one because it was there. And do you know what? I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was amazing. But I woke up the next day with joint pain, and I knew I would. But I really enjoyed that pudding at that time, because I hadn't had one for more than 6 months, I would say, possibly even a year. But I knew what it would do to me. So it's about, again, coming back to that responsibility, knowing what will happen. I don't need it, but I want it, and knowing what will follow after I've had it. But what else can we do for ourselves? We can just love ourselves. Okay, you wanted that, you had it. The joint pains are here, but I'm still going to love you. I'm not going to guilt you or shame you or whatever. You enjoyed it as it was. But let it go. Don't hang on to that I've had that and I shouldn't have had it. Well, shouldn't's a strange word, isn't it? Because we punish ourselves with shouldn't. So it's about changing our vocabulary around it as well. I can eat it if I choose to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know when I eat it, it will cause me symptoms. So in the main, I choose not to eat it. So everything that we do or don't do is a choice. It's all personal choice. And we can make any choices we want to, but we have to understand that we will reap the rewards or problems that come with making the choices that we make.
Yeah, that's so important. And I also people, and it's not a bad thing, just want to prove they can do it if they want to. Right? So if there's a special occasion and someone says, here's a glass of wine, and you want to be part of the moment and everything else, and you take a few sips, it's not going to be the end of the world, but it says you had a choice because of the situation. When I go on vacation too, if there's an ice cream store along the way, wherever the shops are, it's just a nice experience to sit down with somebody, have an ice cream, sit outside in the summer, be in a new place. And you say, okay, it's not the best thing for me, but it says I can do it. I'll survive it. I may pay a little price, but that's okay because you gave yourself an allowance.
Yeah.
You gave yourself a little more room, and you said, hey, for not one time, and if you believe that, it's okay. If you can go back tomorrow to everything you did and say in 6 months, maybe I'll do it again, then you feel more confident. But let's cover these because I am not up. Christine says, it's amazing what cutting out gluten can do for the body. Most wheat in the U.S. is GMO and our bodies can't handle it. So these health issues come out. Gut health is extremely important. So true. And that's why prebiotics, probiotics are such an important thing. A healthy outside starts from the healthy inside. So too, Sheaf. Petra says, me also, when I never thought I would have to go through, so sure woke me up. Well, you're lucky when you're younger because you still got a lot to go after that. There's no quick fix for magic. Having a community has the same goals help. I quit sugar for 4 years. I went back. For me, it's not a slippery slope. It's a grease slide. Lots of luck, so hard to get back on the horse sometimes. And you remember that while you're going through it to say, I don't want to come back here. I was 210 pounds a year because I was bedridden. Now I'm 130. I feel like getting to feel like 21 again. And that's so inspirational, Petra, because it just shows you can do it.
Yes.
80 pounds is significant, and I got to give you credit, but feeling like 21 makes it all worth it. And just think what, I used to think when I lost 40 pounds, I used to look at it like, how much does a Crisco can weigh, and if you have 8 cans of that fat, that you carry around somehow.
Yeah.
What a break it is for your joints and for your muscles and for your everything. I mean, it's like you're thinking of the rest of your body besides your mouth, and I think that's important. As she says, what you already know, so true. Rakesh says, I haven't seen you, but welcome. Health is wealth and it starts from within. So true.
Absolutely.
Anjan says, no illness doctors would starve, including me. Jeff says, it is not only a lifestyle change, it's also consistency.
It is.
And there's something nice about positive routines, positive addictions. Like I'm addicted to exercise. If I don't have it, I'm sluggish the rest of the day. I just don't feel right. And so I have to do it, but it's a good thing. Drinking water, hydrating is a really good habit to get into. Taking the time to smell the roses along the way is important. Petra says, my doctor tried to give me Ozempic until I was telling me not to take it because I'm not diabetic. That's so scary, now think of your younger days, no promotion. Yeah, but back then, that's when everything started. When plastic showed up, when additives showed up, there was, MSG was on everything.
But it was that DDT when you were young, though, didn't they? And they would spray children with DDT, spray it everywhere.
Well, they were doing overground nuclear testing in Nevada, and people were going out there in their beach chairs and their sunglasses, and it was a big event. So it takes a whole whatever to figure out what something was with time. Petra comes back with my favorite foods used to be chocolate, cheesecake, sodas, and chips. While I love fruit shakes, zero sugars and fats. Well, feeling good is its own reward. And once you feel good, you do know the difference.
Can I just come in there, Don? Sorry. Petra, the zero sugars are filled with artificial sweeteners. And what artificial sweeteners do, A, they're a toxic chemical and cause cancer, and B, they make your body crave sugar. So if you could change to infusions or water with, put a bit of lemon in, put cucumber or mint, make up, just healthy drinks, but not anything with zero sugar because it's full of toxins.
Yeah, natural flavors aren't natural. And you really have to read labels.
Yes, you do.
And usually if it's more than 4 or 5 ingredients, there's something wrong with it, especially when you start getting sodium this and benzoate that and those whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what people get hooked on is the taste. Or they're looking to shortcut 2 things. I want the taste. I want the sugar taste, but I don't want the sugar.
Yeah.
And there's always a chemist out there who can figure something out. People have issues with sugar and food and alcohol. It sets off fireworks in the reward center in your brain. It's really not the same for everyone. When people say just don't do it, it might not be that easy possible. No, it isn't. Because until you've been there, until you get heavy and you feel out of the picture, and usually because you took yourself out of the picture because thinking you're out of the picture. And then you say, no one cares, so why not be even heavier? Right? I'm already so bad. What's the difference? And then you self-inflict continued pain over time. And you're right. Tell someone who's a smoker to quit smoking. And well, if they could, they would. But in a lot of cases, it's a disease. And it takes a different kind of help. And then some people are happy with what they're doing. And you can't judge them. If someone says, I don't care what I look like or what people think, I love this. And if that's what they think and they truly believe it, it's not their time for change.
No.
So a no could really mean not yet. And badgering makes it only worse. Right? Because Petra says I was always told no food after 3 p.m. And that's how many people eat because it's the time to eat versus I'm not really hungry, but if you're serving, I'm eating. And how many people eat 5 meals a day based on that, especially if you go to Costco. It's like they just keep feeding you samples. I actually, when I saw a picture of myself at 2 times, almost lost my mind. Well, something like that happens over time.
Yeah.
And you don't notice it. You cook for 3 hours and you're done eating in 5 minutes. So true. It's the part of preparation.
Yeah.
Is enjoy cutting up the vegetables and mixing things up and seeing different colors. Food doesn't have to be just taste, right? There's energy involved. And there's nice when you left before you had to. Leave when you're satisfied, not full, because full can take a lot longer than satisfied. And another thing, take 5 or 10 minutes, slow down because it'll catch up to you. Right? You get satiated over time, but if you dump it all in real fast, and what's the fun of that? Getting it over with? It never had a start. It's like you want to be over, you're already there before you even got going. Petra says, actually, when I said, okay, let's see what Ann John says. The third slice of cake tasted the best. I don't know. The first bite is where you should stop. When I ate leftover sugar, I go, I be welcoming Sarah. I knew I had. Yeah, that is. I had an aunt actually that if you gave her a 5-pound box of chocolate, she couldn't stop eating until it was gone. And she just would eat it. At a certain point, you just couldn't bring it in the house. And that was the only solution. Actually, I always said that to others, and look at our children with cancer. When I grew up, I never saw poor with, there's so much to that. When I was angry about something silly, I would eat nonstop. Now it's the other way around, my appetite. After a while, eating is is problematic in itself sometimes.
Yes.
You know, sometimes it's just easier to make a peanut butter sandwich, throw a banana on it, call it a day. It's a meal, you know, and then you're done until your next meal. Lime leavens are good for salt on baked fries. In Canada, there's a tax on salt added, oil added, sugar added. Anything that ends up. That's a good point, you know, because sometimes that's what authorities or governments are for, is to give guidance, you know, and give clarity. And that's why labels are so important. And you should,
But not all oil is bad and not all salt is bad. We need salt. It's one of the minerals in our body. So, you know, we need guidance, but we also need to listen to our body as well.
yeah, for sure. And everything is conditional, relative. Some people can deal with a lot of salt. Some people can't deal with any.
Yeah.
Some people are tolerant of gluten. Some people aren't. So there's no absolute good or bad, but there is an absolute overindulgence.
Yeah.
Right. So, and even in anything, eat whatever you want, but in the quantities that make most sense.
Yes.
You know, Petra says, amazing. You're absolutely right. I'll assume it was about everything we talked about today. Thank you for reminding health equals self-care and self-love. You know, if you don't love yourself, it's hard to be loved by someone else. You know, if you're always feeling bad about what you just did, and then you continue to do it, then either don't feel bad or don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just fooling yourself. Why? No medication. I was 23 prescriptions. I told her to stop it. I took 50 bottles of pain in a bag, drove up my street to the fire, and asked the nice man, please give me a barrel and a man.
Wow.
You know, and that's another issue. It's compound. Someone gives you this, someone gives you that. No one knows what everybody's doing. You don't even, you know, it's a quandary, because at the same time, I know people are at the end of their rope. They'll do anything to do anything to eliminate the pain or the discomfort. And I think it's your body that can heal itself. And that whole placebo effect keeps going up every year. You know? And maybe the more you believe, the better it is, no matter what you believe, if it's good.
Absolutely. And it's all about belief. If you believe you can, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
Absolutely. And if other people reinforce your belief and validate it, it gets even stronger, because you expect it. You're anticipating it. And eventually your mind and your everything will come together to make it happen for you. And then there's a pride that, hey, I am strong. I can heal myself. I have capability. I don't have to be a victim. I don't have to accept my circumstances. How many people were told they would never be able to do something?
Yes.
And they figured out a way. And it was only because the person who told them didn't know it or didn't understand it.
Yes.
So, you know, who you're listening to and why. And there's so many people with false loyalty to doctors or false belief. Is everything should be tested. If you're not, you know, get another opinion. Yeah. And YouTube gives you all those opinions that you don't have to make appointments. Any condition, there's hundreds, maybe not hundreds, but quite a few. And you could take both sides and then find a little bit of nugget in each one of them, and have a regimen that you can believe in, that's based on a story or a situation that's relative to you. True, I get long-term cramps on the bottom, but that's because my now has a hard time getting, you know, if it's not this, it's that. You know what it does tell you? Use it before you lose it. Enjoy everything that you can, you know, and if you think you're too old now, in 10 years, you wish you were this old then, right? So you can always say what if and what was. But here's the other thing. You survived this long. Whatever you did, you circumvented fatal mistakes or issues. You never overindulged enough that you weren't here anymore. And you also know that yesterday does not define tomorrow. What got you here may not take you the rest of the way. And you know what? It may not be what you want to take the other way. So even if it still works, does it work as well as it could? And the thing about change is that it creates more change because there's a momentum to it. You know, it's like, hey, I cleaned that closet yesterday. Why don't I just move on to the closet 2 today? And you feel a sense of accomplishment. And, you know, instead of the shame and embarrassment, you look yourself in the mirror and you can't get enough of yourself, right? You can dance, you can play loud music. And why not? Why not give yourself the best celebration for the littlest events, just to show you're such a big fan that they didn't have to clap for 3 minutes, but they did, you know, and I'll never forget that. And that's what you want to get you go, is unforgettable things that, hey, if I do this, I'll be able to buy that dress in 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, and can you imagine? And that's where visualization shows up for healthy, whatever it is. See the future, create the future, and watch yourself materialize and actualize the future. So with that said, we covered all these the best we could. You know, I think it's so important to really focus on good health and the healthiness of everything around you and what good benefits you bring to other people's health. How do you make it easier for them to do the right thing? Or are you the person that says, hey, let's get one more beer, one more, you know, or let's order one more pizza? You know, are those the people you're with, you know, or the people actually ask you, what are you into lately? Right? And if you said, well, I'm avoiding gluten and dairy, because a lot of even hosts and hostesses will say, well, prepare something, but can you tell me if there's something, you know, that you can't tolerate well? You know, some people won't eat red meat, some people whatever, but it's courtesy.
Yeah.
Because what it really says, the food is secondary to us getting together. And the last thing I want to do is serve something, you know, when I could have served something else and been just as happy myself. So with that said, final words, Sarah. This things go so fast. It was such a
I
fascinating.
know, doesn't it just? So really, to being healthy is about being proactive, doing what you can to improve your health now, rather than wait until you've got a disease, a diagnosis, a pain, and then start looking for what you can do to make yourself healthy. Start now, and your body will thank you.
Yeah, so true. And you know, I believe that Sarah's a wonderful example of that. Just like Petra shared her story and my story of weight loss, but it could be anything that now is, you know, is the time, you know, and once you know that, you're in a different situation because now it's a matter of how and when, not really should you or if you could. And that's the time to start reaching out. And, you know, every time I quit a bad habit, I did it gradually. You know, I cut down to this and then I was okay with it. And I cut down to that. And then eventually you didn't miss it at all because you never had to go cold turkey or just stop something and then feel like, you know, because if it's not sustainable, and if you don't get the buy-in, you're going to have to do it again. And you remember when you did it the first time, it didn't work, and now the second time. So anyways, little things done right. Enjoy yourself when you do make a little bit of a misstep, and just call it that. It's not the end. It's just, you know, a pause. So anyways, keep smiling, everybody. Be happy. Come back tomorrow. We got Gretchen Skelka, who's just an amazing, wonderful individual with just healthy advice for everybody. So with that said, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll come back in 23 hours. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's always a pleasure.